Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and I recently watched a video by friend of the channel Jason from Painfully Honest Tech, and he was talking about the Galaxy S10e versus the iPhone XR. Now, Jason brought up some interesting points in this video when talking about the specs of both of these phones, and from a marketing standpoint, the iPhone XR and the Galaxy S10e seem to be going after the same market of consumers. People who want a good flagship phone but don't want to pay these prices of $1,000 for a flagship phone, having it priced at $750 each for both of these devices are still a pretty high-priced phone, but not high-priced enough where it's going to scare off a majority of the customers. But going back to the video, Jason talks about how these two phones are very different in the specs department, and on paper, the Galaxy S10e is the clear winner. He even goes on to say that maybe the S10e is eating the iPhone XR's lunch. Now, this video isn't to pick on Jason. I just thought that this topic was very interesting, talking about the iPhone XR, because that was a phone that was kind of dismissed because of its specs when it was first released, and now that the phone's been out and we've had a lot of time to review it and have our hands on it, we all know that the iPhone XR is much more than a spec sheet. Now, when we're talking about the specs of both of these phones, make no mistake that the Galaxy S10e is going after the same exact market as the iPhone XR. These are both the same exact price, $750. I don't think for a second that Samsung wasn't there looking at Apple's strategy and going, okay, how can we also play into this market? How can we capture that same strategy? You can even see it with Samsung releasing a wide variety of colors for each of their phones, and this is something that the iPhone XR, when it came out with, was kind of a novelty. A lot of phones weren't releasing a wide variety of colors, at least from the start and marketing of this phone. So in a way, the Galaxy S10e is a direct answer to the iPhone XR. This is Samsung's iPhone XR. And if you're just looking at the paper spec sheets of the Galaxy S10e versus the iPhone XR, make no mistake that on paper, the Galaxy S10e looks to be a much better phone than what the iPhone XR is offering. However, if you use Apple products and if you've been using tech products for a long time, you know that the spec sheet doesn't necessarily make the phone. There are tons of products out there with the best specs out there, but they fail from other standpoints, both from maybe a software experience or just a general user experience of what the user prefers to use, what features are more important to a specific user, and also things like diminishing returns or gimmicks. Do some of these specs really matter in the long term? Are they actually advantageous over other things that a competitor might have? Now, just going down the raw specs, it looks like the Galaxy S10e is the clear winner in almost every category we can see. However, just because it has a higher number in one category, does that really mean it's better? One of the things that I look at is the screen. I think a lot of people are going to look at the screen of the Galaxy S10e and the iPhone XR, and they're going to look at that pixel density of 326 pixels per inch versus 438 pixels per inch. So although that Galaxy S10e does have a higher pixel density, and some people might prefer that, I have to think back to the arguments of the iPhone XR when everyone was going, oh, the iPhone XR has such a low resolution screen, it's going to hurt your eyes, you're going to see the text, you're going to see the pixels when you look at it. And from almost every review standpoint, and even when I made that video, everyone is wrong about the iPhone XR, I said that at normal viewing distance, you're really not going to be able to see the pixel difference between a iPhone XS Max and an iPhone XR, and it seems like most reviews kind of point that out, that it really takes a keen eye to see the differences in pixel density of that size. And we all know that screens are more than their pixel density. Jonathan Morrison did a video when the iPhone XR came out comparing it to the Poco phone, which had a higher resolution screen, and most people in that video picked the iPhone XR screen because it had better color accuracy, better vibrancy, and was just an overall better screen despite having a lower pixel density. Now, that's not to say that the S10e is going to have a bad screen by any measure. The Galaxy phones usually have really, really good screens inside of them, although they might not be the kind of screen that an iPhone user wants. Galaxy phones usually have really, really saturated screens right out of the box. I know a lot of phone people who prefer the saturated look of the Galaxy phones, but that's really not for everyone. When you get an iPhone XR, I think you're going to get a more color accurate screen because Apple tends to favor color accuracy over really pushing up the saturation levels on their phone. I would also like to point out that if you want a bigger screen for the same amount of money, The iPhone XR has a 6.1-inch screen size, where the Galaxy S10e has a 5.8-inch screen size. So in a way, if you like a bigger screen in a smaller body, the iPhone XR does have some distinct advantages. Even when comparing LCD to OLED technology, it's not a clear-cut winner for some people. Some people do get headaches when they look at an OLED screen. I'm not one of those people, but I've had plenty of people in the comments of my iPhone XR video saying, thank God that Apple released a phone with an LCD screen still, because I get headaches when I look at an OLED screen for a prolonged period of time. It also brings me back to that point that the iPhone XR is a more color accurate iPhone. It's even more color accurate than the iPhone XS and iPhone XS Max, which Austin Evans did a video on, and he measured the screen accuracy, and the XR had better color accuracy. So some people are going to value that more than higher pixel density and more than having a saturated screen. And because that iPhone XR also has a lower pixel density, it also means that the processor and graphics inside of that phone have to work a lot less harder to push out that pixel density, which is why the iPhone XR has some of the best battery life out there on a smartphone. I think a lot of iPhone fans are also going to point to the fact that the iPhone XR has a better chip inside of it than the Galaxy S10e. Apple is about a year or two ahead on Qualcomm chips at this point, and the A series of chips are just an engineering masterpiece. I think a lot of people are also going to point to the S10e's camera, and that has a 2-camera system on the back, a regular camera and then a wide-angle camera. And that might be another point where people are going to look at that spec sheet, and in this instance, they might have a more clear-cut answer that yes, of course, 2 cameras is going to give you more flexibility no matter what those options are. But as for the main camera system, the main camera on any of these flagship phones is going to be really, really good. And if we look at the S10 camera series, it looks to be an amazing camera from the pictures that I'm seeing online personally, but I also see a lot of great iPhone XR photos, so I don't think that there's a clear-cut winner when it comes to the camera department. At this point, these smartphone cameras are getting really good, and at a certain point, it's up to the user to really capture these images to see what you can do with them. You can even see that with the recent shot on iPhone competition. They had older iPhones winning that competition compared to the iPhone XS Max. And I think from watching this video, you can kind of see where my main point is, that there are certain specs that are going to be more important to people. There are certain things that just looking at a spec sheet that doesn't really make a clear-cut winner. And there's also other important things, like the experience of using the phone. And that's a feature that I use every day, and I really wouldn't want to go back to a phone that does not have Face ID implemented into it. So that is just a feature that even when looking at the spec sheets, even when we're looking at the raw specs and you're seeing the S10e went out on almost everything, that's a feature that it doesn't have, and that is something that I wouldn't want to give up personally. You might also like the way that iOS works better. You might like some of the certain features, and that could go from a Samsung user too. Don't get me wrong, this isn't a video to necessarily pick on the S10e. If you like Samsung phones and you're looking at the iPhone XR versus a Samsung, of course you're gonna pick with what you like, the experience that you like, and the hardware that you like. I would also like to point out at this video that the iPhone XR was released in October, so it is now 5 months old. So I really would expect that a new phone released 5 months later would have a better spec sheet than the iPhone. It's kind of crazy that Samsung and iPhone are on different release schedules that are almost 5 to 6 months apart from each other, because whenever the new Samsung phone is announced, it's usually a leader in the spec department, and then when the iPhone comes out another 6 months later, it usually has some sort of advantage that the Samsung phones didn't have that year. So it's kind of interesting that these phones, even though they are always directly compared to each other, they kind of really don't go head to head at the same exact time of release. And this video just basically comes down to that point of, do the raw specs matter? And from a certain point of view, of course, specs do matter, but my main point is that in a way they really don't matter. As long as you have the basic specs outlined of a phone, as long as you're getting good battery life, as long as you have a good display, there might be other features inside of that phone that is done through software, that is done through another technology that can't be compared processor to processor, RAM to RAM, screen pixel density to screen pixel density. We saw this when the iPhone XR was released. People immediately bashed it because some of the specs were lower than what people thought would make a good phone. And in the end, it really didn't turn out to be true. People love the iPhone XR, and people who pick up the XR, I think, are more satisfied than any other iPhone customer out there currently. At least in my comment field anyway. Anytime someone picks up a XR, they're super excited, they love the phone. And I think a lot of people are still going to choose the iPhone XR for the reasons I outlined in this video over a Galaxy S10e. And even Mr. Painfully Honest Tech himself, Jason, when he had the XS Max and the iPhone XR, he ultimately chose the lower spec phone to keep, which was the iPhone XR. So at the end of the day, it's more about the user experience versus the specs. But enough about what I think. Let me know what you guys think. I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts are on this. Do you guys think that specs matter in the long run? Also, I'd like to take the time to plug the Greg's Gadgets Discord server. We just launched that. We got a bunch of people coming in. It's been a lot of fun. We even have an AirPods channel, an exclusive AirPods club for the elite of the elite. It's a very exclusive club. You have to have AirPods to get in, so make sure you join that Discord. If you have AirPods, send me a picture. I need to confirm that you have AirPods before you're granted access to this exclusive club. I'd also like to take this time to give a shout out to the early members who have already joined the Discord. So a big shout out to Onimaru, Angel Dranger, CDF Man, Krista, Deckard717, Dentet64, Dragon Tech Royal, Giving No Fox, J. Privtai, Koala, Lalrin George, LL Trademark, Merlin LLE Rink, Mr. Ditto, Ralph is Kool-Aid, Ripped Amoeba, Ryan Bob David, Shivansh, Skamichi. And if I butchered those names in any way, make sure to correct me in that Discord server. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.